Hello everyone. Welcome. Please give me just 1 minute so I can add our experts and we will start our webinar. In the meantime, let me know if you can hear me well. Please let me know in the chat. Thank you. Thank you. Hi, Casper.
Hello, Kate.
Hi.
Nice to meet
you. Yeah, nice to meet you again. Let's wait for Andy and for our attendees. Don't have much right now in the room. Oh, Andy, is that you? Hi, sorry.
Hi, no problem.
For some reason, I see my name under you. No, it's super strange. It's like 3 Kates here. So, okay, I'm adding you.
No problem.
But I should rename you because right now, I don't know if
What?
I wanted. Yeah, I don't know why.
Why does it have my name? Hold
That's why it
on.
was like surprising.
I can change that. I could never be you, Kate.
Okay. Okay, so we are here. Okay, let's start maybe from introduction. We don't have many people yet, but I think people will join in like a couple of minutes. So let me first make an introduction to myself. So my name is Kate. I'm an event marketing manager at Smartcat. And today we started now with content marketing marathon. It's a series of free events that we prepared for you that will be live every Thursday, starting from today at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Central European Time. And we invited several marketing experts to talk about topics like content analytics, international SEO, content strategies to enter local markets, etc. So today, as probably you know, we will start with marketing metrics, precisely how to use campaign tracking codes to measure campaign results. And I want to present the 2 great marketing experts that I have today with me in the room. First is Andy Krastvina. Andy is a co-founder and chief marketing officer at Orbit Media. It's an award-winning digital agency in Chicago. And you can probably meet Andy at many different marketing conferences. You probably also read his blogs because he writes a lot for marketing blogs. And he's also an author of Content Chemistry, which is an illustrated handbook for content marketing. And good news that this book will be today a prize for the most active attendees. And I will tell you later how you can win this book. And our second speaker, Casper. Casper is a CEO and co-founder of Acutix, which is a marketing data management platform that helps organizations streamline campaign tracking and combine campaign data and assess campaign performance in Adobe Analytics and Google Analytics. Casper has previously worked as a web analytics consultant and also a head of business reporting, and this experience gave him unique insights into how to bridge the gap between marketing, data analysis, and the business. And I hope he will share his insights with us today. So before we go into the main part of our event, I will just maybe quickly go through the structure. We will start with some slides that Andy and Casper has prepared for you. After that, we will have a short quiz. If you will listen attentively to Casper and Andy, it will be not a problem for you to win this quiz and to get the prize that we prepared. And after the quiz, we will go to an expert discussion and to Q&A session. Yes, and basically we hope to end in 1 hour. Starting from now, and I think that's it from my side. Oh, of course, the recording will be available. However, if you need to leave, of course, you'll get the recording, but better stay with us because I think it will be super interesting. Yeah, I think that's it for me. Andy, you can start.
Sounds good. Thank you, Kate. I'm glad to be here. I love this topic, and I love this group. I've gotten to know Casper a little bit, and it's relevant to everybody who does any kind of marketing and who uses specific channels and specific activities and efforts to drive traffic to our properties, to our websites. And then, so I'm going to cover this at a very high level. And then we're going to have Casper take it to another level, explaining how to do this in a way that is scalable, that has better attribution, that is better for collaboration, better for enterprise, better for global teams, which is, of course, highly relevant here with collaborating with Smartcat, which is part of a global platform with a global audience. Okay, so I'm going to jump in. This is, tell me if you can see my slide. I've got a statistic up here. Kate, does that look okay?
Yes,
Good.
looks better.
This is why all of you are doing the right thing for your individual careers today, beyond your brand, beyond your employer, beyond your company. This is the skill. What we're doing today, this is the skill that is in most demand. This is the gap. This is what employers are looking for and candidates don't have. 95% of employers report that job candidates with analytic skills are hard to find. So what we're going to do today is to help you all get better data in your analytics and learn how analytics really works, how these dots connect, and relative to campaign traffic and UTM tracking codes. So first, at the big picture, I'm going to go quickly because many of you already understand this, I'm sure, how traffic is categorized. If you look in Universal Analytics, and we can chat more about GA4 later if you'd like, in Universal Analytics, we get the default channel groupings. This is probably the most popular report, one of the at least probably two most popular reports. And there are issues with this. When you look at this, there's problems with this because analytics doesn't know if that's the same person using a different device. They're all just called users. In fact, they're devices. We don't know if the person came from a non-browser traffic source. You send me a text message, I click on it, I'm a direct traffic visitor, even though you shared a link with me, right? There's all kinds of reasons why any traffic from a non-browser source has no referring data. GA has a lot of trouble identifying social sources, right? Because it's a platform independent thing, right? Social is on apps, it's on websites, it's all over the place. And any single marketing effort as in a campaign can appear in several different places. If your campaign reached me through an app and I click, I'm probably direct. If it reached me through a website and I click, I might be social if it's a social website. If not, maybe refer. It depends how it's set up. It's a big problem. So bottom line and a high level understanding, first to set expectations, every number in your analytics is wrong. They're all wrong. There's not a single accurate number in Google Analytics that I know of. And that's fine. It's okay. The point is not to have the most accurate data in the world. The point is to have accurate enough data to make decisions. And without a little bit of work on our part, we're going to do this today. It's not going to be accurate enough to help us make good decisions. Big picture, every idea that you have as a marketer is actually just a hypothesis. That's how the data-driven marketer and the measurement marketer thinks about these things. It's not just an idea, it's a hypothesis that can be prioritized with other hypotheses and then make a decision. So when you do that, when you take action, you're actually running a test, more or less, a pre-post test, if nothing else. And then you can see if it worked. Did it work? Did that campaign work? Did it drive visitors? Were the visitors engaged? If not, try another idea. It's marketing. You can keep trying. It's experimentation. And if it worked and the impact, and there was an impact, was it big? If not, try another idea. But if it was big, now you know what to double down on. Now you know what to focus on. Now you know where to spend your time and energy and budget, because those were the efforts that got you 10x results. Very common for certain efforts in marketing to give you 10x results, and other things really much, much less. So the idea is to use analytics to find those unicorns, those 10x outputs, and then we can double down on those. Now, in terms of campaign, we need this data. We need better data, because if you just send an email, what do you get? You get delivery rates, probably 97%, open rates, maybe 25%, click-through rates, click to open, maybe 5%. So that's it. That's it. You don't know what happened after they clicked unless you add campaign tracking code, in which case you get the website engagement. Visits, you get bounce rate, time on page, pages per visit, conversion rates. Now you know if that not just got clicks, but if it got engagement, if the visitors took action, how engaged were they relative to other campaigns. And now when you look at default channel groupings, which by default doesn't have it in there, where are your email visitors? Once you set up campaign tracking codes for all those links that bring people to your website, now you get them separately. There they are. Those are the email visitors that we were looking for. So fundamentally, very briefly, here's the mechanics of email tracking codes. I send an email. Here's an example. Here's an email. I send an email. Email has a link. The link, it's right there, right? Link gets clicked, visitor lands. Up in the address bar, there's some extra parameters. Parameters are sort of how browsers work. It's a variables that appear after the URL, starting with the question mark, and then each separated by an ampersand. That is visible to Google Analytics. Therefore, Google Analytics can attribute, our goal here is accurate attribution, can attribute that visitor to that effort. Now, if you look closely at that link, here's the link. I've added, there's actually three things in there. Well, there's the link, and then there's the three parameters. The parameters are source, that's the specific origin of traffic. In this case, a newsletter. Medium, that's the broader origin of traffic. In this case, email. And the campaign name, whatever I wanted to call it. I can call it whatever I want. And when I call it that, it's going to show up in analytics as such. Now, if you look at, these are added often using URL builders, they're called. And a URL builder is, here's one on our side. It's a very simple tool in its basic form that allows you to just type in the source. Ours, you have to choose from a radio button because we're standardizing it for the campaign medium. Again, medium is the broader origin of traffic. Then the campaign name, whatever you wanted to call it, stick in the campaign name. So now our tool actually tries to preview it for you at the bottom to show you what that will likely look like in your Google Analytics. And then you can set these up for any kind of campaign. Here's an example of what it might look like for an email. The source, you can make it the newsletter, or I have friends who say, make it the branded origin of the traffic. Maybe you're using MailChimp or something. Maybe it's a Facebook ad. CPC, that's source is Facebook. Campaign name is spring sale. Source, medium, campaign name. These are the three fundamental. Casper's going to go much farther into this, but I'm starting with the very high level. These are the three main campaign parameters. You'll see more in a minute. And then Twitter. Medium is cost per thousand, or advertising display, or whatever it is. Source is Twitter. Campaign name is event registration. Now, it's helpful to use lowercase letters, and a good tool will push lowercase letters, not allow you to add uppercase letters to these, because analytics will treat those separately. So if you spell email with a, if you spell newsletter with a capital N sometimes and a lowercase n, sometimes they'll show up separately, which is annoying, because you might want to just filter and see all source equals newsletter and see them all in one place instead of having two that you have to do the math in your head. Not fun. So now I can answer questions like, how much traffic is that campaign driving? Let's do it for social. How much traffic is that social campaign driving? Social media is obviously a data-rich environment. It's a high engagement environment. There's lots of things a visitor can do, and all of those are sort of used as proxies by marketers to understand if that's an engaging post. Engaging post, that's good. It's good to have an engaging post, but what do we really want? An engaged visitor. We want a conversion. We're trying to drive leads here. We're not doing this for fun or our health. We're doing this for business. We're, if it doesn't lead to a business outcome, and I want to know that because I want to iterate and become a smarter marketer. Should I even be on TikTok? Whatever that thing is you're doing. Honestly, how could you do resource planning without this? How could you do marketing without this? It's crazy to me that there are marketers that don't do this. If you're probably not one of those marketers, but if you are, today's the day when everything changes for you and you'll get better attribution and more accurate data forever, such as visits from social, bounce rate for visitors from social, time on page, pages for visits per visit for these visitors from social, and the conversion rate. Do visitors from LinkedIn ever become leads? You don't know? You're not getting campaign tracking code. Add campaign tracking code and you will know. You'll know the conversion rate. You'll know the rate based on the page they land on. You'll know the rate based on, you can track your campaign so that it's like social videos lead to greater conversions than regular social posts. All of that is knowable. It's knowable because you can just add this little bit of code to the end of the thing. And then when the visitor lands, analytics categorizes them separately. Where do they appear? This, I'm going to miss Universal Analytics when it dies on July, whatever, 2023. There's a poetic element to it. The way that it's structured is beautiful to me because the three most important sections for reports are alphabetized. How nice, right? I have little kids. This reminds me of, I should teach them analytics. ABC, acquisition, behavior, conversion. Not only are they alphabetized, but they're aligned with the funnel, where they came from, acquisition, what they did, behavior, and what percentage took a profitable action for the business, conversion rate. So obviously campaign data is in the acquisition reports, where they came from. The campaign data is going to be in there. And when you open that campaign data, that section, it's going to be a whole bunch of different reports. This is what's different about GA4. There aren't a whole bunch of different reports. You have to build your reports, basically. There's only like 10 reports total in all of GA4. So you open campaigns, go to all campaigns, and there they are. These are the campaign names, exactly as you named them when you built the links in the campaign, in the URL builder. Whatever you typed in there, that's how they're going to appear. So look, you could clearly, this is my analytics. Clearly these analytics, this report is showing email because there's a spike for every email. I am confident in the accuracy of this data, at least insofar as it needs to be accurate, at least insofar as it's accurate enough for me to learn which of these sources has how much engagement. And then I can see that topic, that timing, that list, that format, all of these things had more or less engagement once the visitor landed on the website. Opens are nice, but totally insufficient. I want to know behavior metrics. I want to know conversion metrics. Look, you can see over on the far right, goal completions. So that's the game. That's what we're really doing here. That's what we wanted to introduce you today. This is something that pro-level marketers never skip. We all do this all the time. It's something that you can do in all kinds of sources. I've got a link in the footer of all my emails. Under my, in my email signature, it says, read my latest article. I got 202 visits last year from that link. How do I know that? I put campaign tracking code on it. How accurate is that? Plus or minus 5%? Good enough, right? So these are the opportunities that we all have. So that was the really high level, basic color by number version of this. Now I'm going to introduce you to, or you've already been introduced to, a legit expert who does this for a living at a global scale. Someone I've learned a lot from about how this can be done at the enterprise level. Casper from Acutix is now going to show us how to do much, much more with this when you're working in large accounts, many campaigns, simultaneous campaigns, large teams, disparate teams around the world. So I'll stop sharing here and then Casper, hand it over to you.
What a nice introduction, Andy, and great intro to GA. I mean, let me just share the screen here as well and see if I can pick up where you left, essentially. I mean, trying to follow with the same pace, but I'll do my best here. Let's see. All right, you can see it? You can see my screen?
Yep, looks good.
All good. All right, I'll try to take it a bit further. I mean, Andy, you created all the foundation. We have everything in place now. We know what campaign tracking is about. We know why to do it. We know, I mean, the importance of it, and not at least how to do it as well. But as you said yourself, it can be taken to, I mean, an even broader extent. So with Acutix, we're working with clients, I mean, local clients in the same market here. We're based in Copenhagen, Denmark, by the way. So Danish clients, but we're also working on a global scale here with Fortune 500, even Fortune 100 companies. And there is lots of difference when you're doing campaign tracking. The concept is the same. I mean, the what, the why is the same, but the complexity of the taxonomy is different. And when I say taxonomy, I actually mean a campaign structure. I'll come more into that in detail, but essentially we're talking about what are we tracking for the different activities that we're running. Activity being an email or a Facebook ad or a display campaign or anything like that. But the concept is, and as you said, I mean, we want to optimize our media spend. Essentially, we want to drive as many conversions as you want for the few amounts of dollars, not a few amounts of efforts, essentially. We want to, I mean, for the local marketeer, well, a goal might be you want to have more budget to drive more conversions. We want to increase profit. We want to improve our campaign performance, and that we're actually succeeding in what we're doing here in a marketing context. The only way we can do this is by running our reports on our conversions, attributing that back to our media activities through campaign tracking. I mean, campaign tracking is the fundamental thing here. We could have behavioral reporting and all that within Google Analytics, but what really pays the way is I mean, we want to sell products, right? The only way you can measure that is through linking from the media activity to analytics, to a website, to the actual conversion that we're seeing. in order to do this correctly, we need to feed our analytics with the right data. I mean, the same thing as everything else here. I mean, so probably a bad analogy here, but the concept is if you don't water the tree, if you don't give it enough nutrition, don't give it enough, it won't grow. The same thing with the data. You need to care about it. A taxonomy is basically the same campaign structure. You need to make sure that it's working as intended. If you have a very complex taxonomy, it will be different. It will require a lot of time. But if you have, I mean, of course, a more simple one for a smaller business, for something where I don't have that much requirement, it will definitely be simpler. But in all cases, we need to make sure that it's followed consistently. If we don't follow a tracking strategy, I mean, if we don't have standardized way of tracking our activities, I mean, when you send out emails in your newsletters, you know how to track an email. You're doing it consistently. You're always applying a UTM medium for email, for instance. The source might be your MailChimp source that you're sending it out from. And the campaign name might be the subject of the email that you're sending out here. I mean, that would be a strategy that you follow. So you know how to report on it. You can see what subjects drove the most traffic. It will all be for the same email. It will all be from the same source and so on. If we don't have that structure, well, we have the photo on the left here. We'll have a big pile of breaks or a big pile of traffic that we go into our GA account. I mean, essentially, if you don't have the right medium, I mean, it might be email, it might be, I don't know, you might have put newsletter in the email part instead of the source. You might have put, I don't know, anything else. And if you don't have a structure, it will be very difficult to do reporting. And that's what we actually see here from clients that don't have this in place, is if you don't have a structure in place, a good process, you will spend, I mean, 5 up to 10 amounts of time in just searching and cleaning and reporting data, else you would have spent us just putting the right tracking codes in place. I mean, it actually takes quite a lot of effort to do right reporting if you don't have this in place. On the other hand side, if you have a good structure, I mean, you'll have the photo on the left here, very nicely ordered breaks. I mean, you can easily go down to the value and actually create the reports, look at the insights and actually take action. I mean, that's the critical part here. You want to go from reporting to actually taking action, as Andy just presented. Should we go back? I mean, is it working? If not, do something else. If it is working, well, then, I mean, let's double down on that one. Let's get the value from it. When you're talking about business sizes here, we often see that complexity is proportional with the business size. But the concept is, I mean, it's actually not that difficult to always value quality over quantity. We see so many clients that are saying, hey, we want to track what medium. I mean, is it CPC? Is it social? What is it? I mean, is it search or social display? What source? We want to have the business unit, we want to have the campaign type, want to have, I mean, campaign name, we want to have a placement, want to know the creative name, want to know the creative size, the type, I mean, all these things here. If you don't use that data, it will just be wasted efforts in putting it in place. And yeah, don't do that. Start small and make it grow. It's like it's evolving. It's not going to be a revolution. It's an evolution in time that you have a growing taxonomy, a tracking structure that will align with your business needs. Everything that you need to report on will be within the URL, because that's the little key here that actually links your media activities back to your reporting within analytics and to see what actually do with your conversions. And he named a few UTM parameters. I mean, we have UTM source, medium campaign, UTM content, UTM term. That's actually the 6th one called ID. Let's wait a bit with that one. But essentially, those are small buckets that you could put data in, add to the URL, and they serve like as the truck that delivers your values from, or the tracking values from your media platform to analytics and orders that nicely so you can do a reporting on it. So anything that you would like to track will need to be in these parameters. And from a Google Analytics perspective, this will be what is normally prefixed with UTMs. And Andy, I can remember last time we had this discussion here, you quickly said, oh, UTM, that's the shorthand for urgent tracking module, right?
That's right. I think that's internet history. It's trivia, but Google Analytics was originally acquired. It was an old tool called Urchin, which old people like me actually used. But isn't that left over from that? Is that true, or is it rumor?
I think, I mean, it's the best explanation I've heard. I mean, at least. That's
what I heard. UTM actually originally stood for Urchin Tracking Module.
Module, exactly.
So that it's a rumor I'm passing along. So verify before sharing that one.
It's always fun because we also have clients that transition from Google to Adobe and the other way around as well. But then the Adobe, they use their normal tracking for UTMs. They don't change that. So now suddenly we have urgent tracking programs for GA that transition to Adobe. It's like a full circle here. But yeah, but the concept is the same. Regardless of the analytics that you're using, it will always be in the URL as parameters, because is the transportation unit between your media platform, your media activity, to your website, and where you're gonna track your activities. Whenever you have a big business, large business, enterprise business, or smaller business, the underlying fundamentals are the same, but the complexity differs, of course. If you and they are only sending your emails out to any of the users and you know that they're all going to be within UK, I mean, you likely don't have to put the market in your tracking codes because, well, you know they're from UK.
Yeah.
But if you're working from a global enterprise who's sitting in 50 plus 100 markets or so, well, it will always be nice to know what market we're actually targeting with our campaigns within our campaign reporting. There's a nice little report that we often see clients are doing here. Let's say that we're putting UK within our tracking parameters because now we're targeting UK campaigns. If we see traffic starting coming in from any other markets, well, there might be something wrong with our target audience here. That could be an indication for that, at least, which might have something to do with our spend and the budgets and so on that we're actually allocating it, and the conversion rates, because that other market that suddenly became a part of our audience will convert much worse than the UK targeting one, which our budget was aligned to. So there's many things that you can drive from that. The same thing with business units. Again, not sure how many you're sending emails out from, whether the business unit is you, Andy, when you do your email report, or when they're small, right? But again, in global companies, well, we have more business units. That might be interesting to see which business units actually was responsible for certain conversions to their marketing efforts. It's often the case that you have budget split in these business units, and there is, internal policies and politics and all that. You need to report on what you're actually trying for your unit, and we all know that it takes more than one touch point to drive a conversion. It might be that you have education driving something to the website, but well, it's actually, I don't know, the governmental or the public, anything else that actually drove the conversion afterwards. So then you can do your attribution based on that. Again, there's no single way to do attribution. It's up to you. Is it linear? Is it non-linear? Is it data-driven? The U form, the otherwise. There's so many different ones, but they will be business specific. It could also be they have products. Well, we want to include the targeted product in this, because let's say that we're running a campaign now on Facebook for Apple AirPods, but actually ends up with seeing that 20% of the ones we're driving here ends up buying, I don't know, a trackpad as well. Well, that could indicate about something for the audience as well. Should we do some cross-product alignment here? Can we actually save some budgets by removing that segment from our target audience and putting that into another product category that we're targeting? There's many ways that we can do here. Having these 3 examples in mind, you can see that the UTM campaign structure at the bottom of the screen actually grows with these. So instead of just having a single campaign name within the UTM campaign, we're building this string up here from a concatenated version of these different elements. Again, this is often seen when you have a more, going towards a more advanced tracking structure, because we have the country, we have the locale, we have the language in the first part, then we're going to have the business unit, and then we're going to have the product or the category, and then the product afterwards. It makes it easy, if you're doing it this way, for you to do reporting within GA and isolating business unit out of your campaigns. This campaign here likely doesn't run only on Facebook, for instance. It perhaps runs on your search activities. It may be that it used the same campaign here in an email. It could be for display activity, affiliate. It could be in the offline. There's many channels that could drive traffic for this specific, campaign overview here. And using it this way here, you could easily isolate all education campaigns across all your channels and your sources into one specific view. Or, well, take all the UK campaigns. What are the UK targeting campaigns actually driving for conversions, and what products are they driving conversions for, and so on. So it all boils down to the taxonomy. And this would actually be an example of a taxonomy where we have the locale, we have the business unit, the category, and the actual product in the end here. Nice to separate it with underscores and lowercase and all these things. But there's many ways. These were just some examples. Through our clients, it could be anything, but it caters to the business, right? It could be you want to track the targeted devices, you want to have the search type, you have strategies, you have I mean, campaign objectives, which is actually a quite interesting one to have in mind here. Having the campaign objective in the campaign traffic really tells you about something about your messaging and then again, the targeting that you're running here. If I'm running, I mean, a conversion target campaign, I want to drive conversions, but we can see we only have product views or something from our tracking. It's probably more of an awareness or a top funnel campaign. That is the result, but we actually were set up to drive conversions. Well, then there's definitely something, I mean, we need to change about the creative or the messaging or something like that, because we don't reach our actual target or objective with the campaign. And there's many other possibilities as you can see. When we have a fully functional tracking structure here, so this is actually taken from our, as close to one of our real life examples that we have here. It's the similar concept as Andy shared before for the UTM tag link. There's just a bit more information in here. If you look at the link at the bottom, the source is Facebook. So this is actually a social campaign driving track from Facebook. The medium is social paid. So in this case here, we actually split social up in two different buckets. Social, I mean, paid version and the, well, organic, but this is the paid part. And then we have UTM campaign that consists of, I mean, a bit more values than we saw before. So we have the country, the language. I actually have a campaign type here. So it's prospecting. We also have a conversion, CONV. So that's the objective. We have the business unit, the category, the product. We even have a launch date here, January 22nd or January in 2022. And the name is called product launch. So there's many elements in this string here that we can actually start reporting on. We also have a few other parameters, content term, and so on in it. But it just means that when you go into the campaign report, I mean, if we go into the acquisition on the left-hand side and take all campaigns, you will actually see a very nice structured campaign view looking like this. And again, you can see it follows the same convention. I mean, there's number of underscores, the number of elements and all that, which allows you to quite easily actually search by the, I mean, individual elements and have them grouped together and see those aggregated numbers of your campaign efforts. One thing I would like to stress here is the channel definitions. I mean, we see it so many times here that businesses try to cater for standard and default channel groupings instead of updating channel groupings to meet the business. I mean, no business is the same. You will need to update these to match them, to match your needs in order to drive and get most value out of it. Some businesses, I mean, in this example here, are fine with tracking social as social. I mean, they don't split on paid and organic. You don't have to do it, but it actually drives quite a good insights in doing so. And if you go into the channel group in GA, you can actually update the existing social channel definition. Instead of just having the system defined ones, you can say, well, the medium exactly matches social paid, for instance, or it matches social organic. So in this way here, we actually have two different UTM medium values, the paid and the organic part. So we have a split on the paid versus the organic, but we're grouping both of them into one social channel, which gives you an aggregated view as well, which you can nicely split out on these things here. It's quite interesting to see the impact of your paid versus the organic, how you can, I mean, there's two ways you can actually buy more organic content. You can optimize the value that you're getting out from your paid activities, and the other way around. The more paid you do, perhaps the more brand awareness you're spreading, you can actually move that to the organic part and save some cost. I mean, there's interesting ways that these things here play around. The same thing with, I mean, organic keywords versus, I mean, paid keywords. You can, if you have a lot of traffic on paid keywords, well, start creating content for that, get the ranking up in the organic part, save some budgets, move users over to the organic traffic source instead. You can do the same thing with offline. We're seeing a growing example of it. I think, I mean, during COVID, QR codes exploded. I mean, there's so many that want to do this.
That's a great use case.
It is
QR codes. Yeah, perfect, right? Because you can add campaign tracking code to that link.
Add campaign tracking codes to it. I mean, have quite an interesting case here. We have it's a large pump manufacturer. They actually putting QR codes on individual products for user manuals. So when they use, I mean, the scan them, I mean, out in the field, they can actually see what specific product was scanned now, which product manual were read, and where in the world was it scanned. I mean, was it out with a client? Was it at the business? And all these things here. So there's many interesting ways that you can do it. I mean, in QR, again, it's like a religion. There's nothing is carved in stone. You could say it's an offline channel, and then the source could be a QR, or the delivery type could be QR, but the source could be a flyer that you're running. Channel be offline still. Many ways you can slice and dice it, but it's going to be quite interesting to have everything grouped into these channels here Instead, I mean, because if you don't create these channels here, you'll just see everything ending up in direct that hasn't been defined.
So you're in analytics, the admin section under channel settings, and you're redefining what channels are. So you could literally make a channel for offline.
Make a channel for offline. So, I mean, if you're running a billboard, there's not, I mean, you could have a short URL, for instance. I mean, you know, the small Bitly ones and all that, could redirect to your actual destination, and your Utm medium could just be offline. So all that offline activities
that is so cool.
Suddenly tracked in your digital universe.
Never thought of that. So to redefine the channel with definitions.
Exactly.
And create a new one for offline that could be like QR codes. Because honestly, like let's say you're just a single business unit, and you're, you know, or you're a small restaurant group. You've got a lot of random traffic to your site that's not marketing at all. It's people looking up the cocktail menu. You don't want that in your analytics. You want to be able to see it separately. And without a campaign tracking code, it's all mixed in, right? Those are all like direct traffic visitors.
Exactly. And that's actually a very good example, because I mean, campaign tracking can use as a nice grouping for you to report on the data, but you can also exclude the data from your reports using, I mean, segments and all that. So everything that you don't want to have in your marketing reports, I mean, again, looking at the menu, scanning that and going in, we'll leave it out, focus on everything else.
Right, you exclude it. You don't want it. It's not marketing data, it's current customer data. Boy, next time it'll probably be later today. Next time I scan a QR code and look at a menu and land on a page, I'll be looking to see if there's campaign tracking code. And I'm going to think of you, Casper, when I notice how bad these places are at tracking or segmenting their visitors, which is really what we're talking about, right?
Exactly.
To exclude the people sitting in the restaurant from, you know, visitors who are, not yet in, sitting down, potential diners.
Exactly. I mean, there's actually honestly so many use cases for it. I mean, we in Acutics, we make them dynamic as well. So if you have your branded short URL, you can redirect to, I mean, have a QR code, redirect into one of your own short URLs, redirect into the full one. You can always change the redirect from the short URL, meaning that you can suddenly change the destination of a QR code without changing the QR code itself. A very good use case for that is setting your store, going into a grocery store, and you can subscribe to a newsletter, for instance, or you can open the current week's newspaper. When you scan that QR code, you're taken to the newspaper online, I mean, the digital newspaper for that one, with a tracking code on as well, of course. Well, the next week, instead of changing the QR code, you just update the short URLs pointing to the new newspaper with the new tracking codes. Use
no printing.
Exactly.
Yep. You don't need to go reprint it again. The word that pops to mind a lot during these conversations is governance. This is like link management, campaign tracking. It's a type of governance almost, right? It's like just being organized about how you do things.
It is.
What is the name of what we're talking about?
I think it's data governance, or it's standardization as well. That it's a combination of governance and towards a process. It's a flow. It's a hygiene. I mean, there's so many.
The hygiene, yeah, it's totally hygiene. It's because it's cleaning up your data. Yeah, it's it's marketing data hygiene. It's behavior data hygiene. Marketing metric hygiene. I like that too.
Exactly. And then, and there's so much too, because if you have this good hygiene, I mean, if you take the social part, you actually, you're consistent in tracking your paid activities using the right medium, social paid, and all the, the social owned, all the organic posts that you're tracking as well, you will use the medium social organic. Then you have the nice split, right? You have the aggregated numbers of the social. Easily add a secondary dimension for the source medium breakdown. Well, then suddenly you have everything spread out on the organic versus the paid part. You can see how those two drive conversions. You can add your, the revenue and everything, the bounce rate and so on, all the interesting metrics in these ones here.
I think hygiene is a good word, because what's the opposite of hygiene? Your data is not clean. Your data is polluted or it's diluted. Dirty. Yeah, it makes the case.
Exactly.
Dirty. It's dirty data.
and then there's the trust, I would say. Trust is a big thing, right? Definitely. We need to trust the data. Trust is the fundamental for anything, because we can, create any reports we like here. We can make any conclusions, but if you don't trust the underlying data here, what is it worth, right?
Right.
And then if we want to take it, to the full extent here. We have UTM source, UTM medium, UTM campaign, UTM content, UTM term, actually UTM ID as well. Those are the 6 default UTM parameters that we have from Google. Source and medium are fairly locked down to, well, the source where the user clicks it, the medium, well, the category of the source essentially. Campaign content and term are up for grabs. I mean, you can use that for anything that you would like. It's only the campaign report that is natively available as a dedicated report in GA, if I'm not mistaken. I'm pretty sure that the content, which is called add content in the dimensions, and term is called keyword, are only available as secondary breakdowns, but you can always do custom reports in GA if you want to do that. But you can use it for anything you like. Even though it's called Utm term, you don't have to use it for a keyword. You can use it for anything. Utm ID is an underlying ID that is used for data enrichment, data imports. I'll come back to that. But then you can do anything. I mean, you could have something called Utm segment. You can have anything called Utm macro or Utm, I mean, gender. You probably want to stay away from that. It sounds like a dirty GDPR.
You're inventing those. You're creating your own
exactly.
parameters.
So these are just custom parameters. I'm just making them up here, but you don't even have to prefix them with Utm. It doesn't really matter here. But the concept is, if you want to separate some data out, I mean, have them in a separate dimension in GA, for instance, we could easily just add them as our separate parameter. And then if you're using a tag manager like Google Tag Manager, for instance, well, you can just take the Utm segment parameter, take the value, and put that into one of your custom dimensions in GA. And then you have doing the mapping here. So suddenly we can actually track up and tag our campaigns using the normal tracking parameters. We can add our own. It could be that we want to have a segment, for instance, applied to that. And we can have that in a dimension that we can just apply to any of our traffic within GA as its own breakdown.
So if you make up your own parameters, you also have to set up custom dimensions for them to appear as reports in GA.
Yes, it might be that you can do something with filters within GA, but I think the most common case here would be within your tag manager to pack that into a dimension.
Cool. Yeah, it makes sense.
And then, I mean, at the bottom of the screen, you can see lots of IDs here. That one, I mean, and don't get scared away from that one. It's actually, it's fairly simple. So what you see here is the macro part that equals, and then some curly brackets and some IDs and so on. This is actually macros that are recognized by Facebook. So if you want to get really advanced here, you can have Facebook, I mean, automatically insert the corresponding campaign IDs, the ads IDs, and the ad IDs into the destination URL. It's very interesting because you can capture this in a dimension as well, and then start importing. I mean, you can see here, Utm macro, we have that up here as a separate dimension, and then you can start importing the corresponding ad names into GA. So now we are getting a bit more advanced here, but you can actually recreate the hierarchy from your media platform in analytics. And why do you want to do that? Well, first of all, the marketing team would love it, because the normal Utm tracking is more for analysts going very broad across the channels and sources, but an individual marketeer would like to see it was this specific campaign, this specific ads and this campaign that drove the traffic in here. The other thing is, you also need to think about attribution windows here. GA license up goes across everything. Facebook really only looks at Facebook's touch points in here, which might be biased to watch Facebook. Same thing for Google, and I mean Google Ads, Campaign Manager, anything that has their own tracking pixels, because they can only take into account their own touch points. So do you want to have this into in GA for this one here? So how to succeed? I mean, it's there's lots to focus on here for sure. I mean, I found this funny example here. I mean, there's many ways to spell Philadelphia. Same thing for anything else. Newsletter. With 1 T, 2 T's, triple T's, I guess. I mean, Facebook, capital F, lowercase f. The thing is, if you don't have a consistent way to do it, if you don't have a good process for our hygiene in order to create these codes here, we will end up with many different ways to spell our campaigns, use taxonomy, and so on. Needs to be process in place. Most often people are going into a spreadsheet or a Google Sheet and creating these schemas for doing the drop downs to ensure that everybody found the same way. But I would say if you're in a growing organization, large organization, you may want to consider other means, especially if you're working with multiple markets and different stakeholders, internally, externally. You may see limitations with spreadsheets, but yeah, then we can have a talk for sure, of course. But just consider doing a best fit solution for the situation that you're in, so people know that. I mean, you want to spend time on reporting and optimizing and enjoying more conversions, not cleaning data. That's for sure. Yes, that was good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Andy, Kasper, I just wondering that we won't have enough time for questions, and actually we already started to get questions. What do you think? How should we proceed? We plan to have a short quiz now. Should we move to it and then we go to questions, or?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it sounds like the quiz is like a lightning round, very quick. And we've
Okay,
got 15 minutes, I think, right? So sure.
Yeah, okay, let's do it like very, very fast. First, I want to send the prize that we will have. Maybe Andy, you can add a couple of words about the book, like who would benefit for reading it. So this will encourage people to win it. And in the meantime, I'll prepare the rest.
So Jay Baer called this the most practical book ever written about content marketing. If you read the Amazon reviews, you'll see the word Bible used a lot. I think that's an overstatement, but it is literally, it's a mostly complete handbook for anything that you need to do to content marketing. It is it's everything I've learned over 15 years and in 200 pages, and it's filled with graphics and diagrams and images. It's a reference guide. I have a lot of friends, I know a lot of influencers who say they keep it on their desk. So it is, it's you're going to get thousands of hours of my experiments and learning and best practices between two covers. So highly recommended.
Great. Okay, so the rules are easy. I'm sending the link to this tool that we will use, which is called menti.com. I'm sharing the screen. Do you see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, great. I actually also planned to play. I won't answer the correct answers. I won't choose the correct answers. I know all of them, but yeah, I just like to play as well.
Okay.
Okay, let's see whom we have it here.
I'm ready.
Let's wait for for more people. I just see two. Guys, let's join us here. It's really easy. Just take your phones, go through this link, put your name, and you're ready to play.
I think I'm doing too many Kahoot quizzes when we actually have the app here as well, right?
Guys in the chat, please let me know if you are in. Oh, I see more people joining. Okay, so maybe you just have some troubles joining. I'm just wondering that you don't have them. Okay.
What a cute tool.
I actually didn't know that he puts like these different pictures to people when they're joining, because when we tested it wasn't like that. Okay, we have a strawberry, a dog, a hat. Nice. Okay, let's start. Okay, the last one, the plane. Okay, who is not in? I'm sorry. Okay, cool. Let's start because we don't have much time. So I'm starting the countdown, and it's just 5 questions, really easy to answer. If you listen carefully to a presentation, it will be super easy for you. So the first one is, what percentage of employers report that people with analytic skills are hard to find? Just remember what Andy presented, and you will know the answer. Okay, hands up. Great, 2 people answered. Fantastic. Let's move to the next one. So the next question is, which of the following is not a default channel grouping in Google Analytics? So is it organic search, direct, social, branded, or referral? Someone mentioned it on the slide, so it will be easy, I think, to answer as well. 5, 4. Time's up. And do we have the right question? Yes, right.
Smart group.
Yeah, well, let's move to the next one. What of the following was mentioned as an issue for identifying traffic sources? So here are 3 issues. You can choose. Or maybe it's all of them. Do you have it right? Yeah, really smart group. And I think this is 4 or 5. Which of the following is used for the broadest origin of traffic? It's one is easy, I think. Super easy to answer.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one, and the last chance. So now we will know the winner after this question. Which of these metrics are not found in Google Analytics? Average time on page, shares, bounce rate, or conversion rate? And we will soon know the winner. Okay. Oh, Andy wasn't you was answering. Okay. Okay.
We have a winner.
Yeah, we have a winner. It's Mohsin Shah. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, sorry, but you are the winner and the book is yours. Congrats. I will contact you to check how I can deliver it to you. Congratulations. Yoo-hoo!
Mohsin, you are getting a LinkedIn connection request from me right now to congratulate you.
Okay, so let's maybe move to the questions because we just have like 10 minutes left. And guys, if you want to ask a question live, maybe it requires a lot of context and you don't want to write it. So just raise your hand and I will turn on your microphone so you can ask the question. Andy, do you see the first question? It's in.
I do. This
yeah.
is best way to build these reports in Google Analytics 4. So I'm going to share a screen. I took a minute to record. So here's a little screencast video of me creating a campaign report in GA4. So it's under the reports, it's under acquisition, and it's under traffic acquisition, of course. Notice there's very few reports in here, so we need to build this report ourselves. So the next thing I'm going to do is to customize this report to choose the metrics that I find most useful. I'm going to just choose sessions as in visits, engagement rate, which is the new version of bounce rate, a bit different, a higher number is better for engagement rate, and conversions. So I'm prioritizing those three metrics and literally customizing my report to put those three columns at the beginning of the report. So now to go back, you're going to see those are the three first columns: session, engagement rate, and conversions. Now, my primary dimension here, I want to switch to the campaign dimension. Now I can see all kinds of campaigns, but you saw there was some noise in there, organic and direct and other things. So I'm going to create a comparison, which is the new version of filters, to exclude those. So which dimensions am I doing for the exclude? The campaign. Which ones am I excluding? This is actually kind of handy. I'm just going to check the boxes to exclude them. And now I have removed those. There's still a comparison, so I need to take out the all users. And now as you scroll down here, you can see these are this is sort of the closest thing to a campaign report. It's got the campaign as the primary dimension, sessions, engagements, and conversions as the three main metrics. A little bit more work, not the, I had to customize a report. I had to use a comparison for the report. I had to change the primary dimension because there's not one called campaign as a default report, but that tiny video, and yes, we'll share it. It's the last slide in my deck. We'll share everything. That is how to create a report to view the performance of campaigns in GA4.
And Andy, these values that you see for campaign here, are those tracked using normal UTM parameters, or do we need to change anything?
Nope, those are just the campaign parameters. That's the first column there is the UTM campaign equals.
So UTM campaign parameters, I mean, regardless whether we're going into, full universal analytics or going into GA4, you don't need to change your tagging essentially for all the activities here. Data will just flow. Nope,
it's the same. I could even, with that little blue plus, I could click that and add a secondary dimension for source medium, and it would pull the source medium from the campaign parameters. Mm-hmm. That's it. There you go. But a bit more custom, a bit more involved, a few more clicks. And here again, this is going to make each of you more valuable. If you're early on the curve, if you're an early adopter for GA4, you're going to have this kind of secret knowledge. This is the level of the report. It's a bit more of a pro tool. And so it's going to create a bigger gap between, the less senior marketers and people like us who know how to go in, make those exact clicks to get this exact data to go to that meeting and give useful input. Yeah, fun, right? Mm-hmm. I wonder what people think of that. Like that's what it takes. That's the tool. That's what we're doing now. Welcome to the future. Starting next July, that's how you have to do it.
It is pretty crazy that universal analytics is going to be sunset here. I mean, there's a lot of companies that are working very, very hard to make that transition right now.
Well,
I think
hopefully that was helpful.
I think many people think that, okay, it's next July, I still have time to get used to this, you know, maybe in June, next June I will start.
Oh, how long did it take you to learn universal? More than a year. Now that means now's the time to start using learning GA4. It's going to be, just prepared to be frustrated for a while, but keep going. You'll get it.
Exactly. And I also think, I mean, even though that's a technical part, right? And then if you're going back to campaign tracking here, I mean, there's much more to it than just reporting here. I mean, there's all the process, the fundamentals, design a taxonomy, structure, aligning with people, aligning with stakeholders. I mean, there's actually quite a few tasks involved in getting this nailed across a team that, I mean, more than 5 people. Talk with, I mean, what would your search team, what do they need for reporting? I mean, there might be similarities with the display team and the social team, but I'll probably guarantee that they're not 100% identical. And how to align that in a structure that goes across. I mean, it takes some time to do, and it's never too late.
It's never too late. But bottom line, we're using analytics there to answer questions. It's not just for reporting. We're trying to do analysis. There's sort of 2 uses for analytics generally. One is to just run reports. Sometimes, you know, certain executives like reports, but that's not the same as making more informed decisions using accurate marketing data. So there's a big difference between just reporting and doing analysis. Lots of marketers can do basic reporting. It's far more valuable, the marketers that are good at doing analysis and making recommendations and creating executive summaries and going to the level of like, these are our current hypotheses. This is what worked, what didn't work. Reports are kind of boring. Analysis is fun.
That's where you see the insights, right? I always see, I mean, the changes and the impacts you can actually do on things here. So I completely agree.
Yep. Anybody can report. Thank you for your question, Kate.
Well, it wasn't actually Kate, you know, because some people just got into using my link. So I don't know who it was, but this person
Jade.
just commented, just commented in the chat that she's been, or he, I don't know, been following you since content marketing course last year. So yeah, it's Jade. Yeah, it's Jade. Great. Now we know the name. Okay, any more questions to our super experts? Or we will finish on time. I don't know if we don't have any.
Well, I think that there's just a general question that we can all ask the next time you're in a meeting is like, did that work? And then someone's going to give you an answer and then ask, how confident are you in the data? And when you go one level deeper and look more closely at the specific effort, you know, what was the R and what was the I? What was the return in the end and what was the investment? If you don't ask the questions that find those answers, then you are at high risk of spending lots of hours with zero value. It's the problem with marketing. There's so many things you can do. So many things can be categorized as marketing, but which are the things that actually make a big difference? It's the 80-20 rule taken to the extreme. It's the 95-5 rule. You know, 95% of your results may be coming from 5% of your efforts. The job of analytics is to help us find those unicorns so we can double down on those efforts.
Exactly.
We have a question, sorry, in the chat. Is it necessary to shorten your links or can you use just them as is?
Well, I mean, UTM, if you put UTM parameters in your links that you drive traffic to your website, you can use them as is. I mean, they can be long. You can, I mean, of course, they're exposing everything. If you're using them in an offline setting or a text message or anything where the link is visible, I will always recommend that you shorten them to something else. I mean, otherwise people will not know where to go to, and it will probably, you need to pay for a full text message if you send that in a full length in a text message. So shortening is definitely, if you don't want to have to go take up as much space, that's probably the only reason for doing so. Bear in mind, I actually got a question the other day that they want to shorten, a client want to shorten the URLs because they don't want to expose the parameters to the end user. The thing is, short URLs, It's just a redirect, right? So you're taken to the full URL anyway with the full parameters on them, so
Right.
they can always see what's in there. So
I thought of that when you mentioned UTM objective. If the visitor, it's very unlikely who looks at those who looks at parameters. But if the UTM objective has something in there that's meaningful, like trying to re-engage these people,
So,
it's like, I might see
Windows
that.
shoppers, non-converters, anything. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
People who've been ignoring me, like you wouldn't put those as your parameters.
Exactly. And that's actually that. I mean, we didn't get into today. It's a full session on that alone. But I would say larger companies and clients are always using IDs instead. So instead of having all values put into many parameters, just using a single campaign ID, and then you have some sort of means like a tool that you're going into or something else that imports all the values to analytics and linking it with this ID here. So the users will just see like 6 characters, alphanumeric characters,
Right.
Doesn't mean anything, but all your reports will be the same because the data goes through an API behind the scene. Yeah, that's definitely the next level.
Sorry, I know we have to finish because it's already 8 p.m. I think you have some maybe calls, things to do, but we have the last one more question in the chat, in the Q&A section. Can you please take it, Andy? Or...
Sure. I don't see the question though.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I will just read it then. How long does it take to start seeing results for a content piece? Is it like 1/3 of a month a good time frame?
That's such a fun question. Well, because it would depend on the traffic source. So there are things that you can do with it. If you publish a piece of content and then promote it with an email, you will see traffic starting within minutes. That traffic may last for a day and a half or 2 days, with some small tail lagging for some days and weeks. If you create a piece of content and promote it in social media, all the traffic that comes from that social post will likely come in the first few hours, as the streams show that at the top. And then that will taper off over the next few days, usually. If you create a piece of content that's optimized for search, it may get crawled and indexed within a day, but it may not rank. I just saw a piece of content that I published. It's optimized for like how to grant access to Google Analytics. It was 2 years before that thing started to rank. Now it ranks number 2 right under Google. It's attracted 10,000 visitors over time. But search is a much slower channel. You might need to build links to it, keep editing it, keep optimizing it. So the amount of the interval at which you begin to report on the success of a piece of content will definitely depend on the channels in which that content was promoted. YouTube videos get discovered or suggested through YouTube Suggest. When does that kick in? That can take a lot of time before YouTube concludes that this is a video that gets engagement. So it's I think it depends upon the traffic source, but generally speaking, a week after a piece of content's live, you should have good insights into how well it worked. Behavior metrics you'll get right away, regardless of the traffic source. They won't vary too much. The behavior metrics won't vary too much. Time on page, conversion rate, pages per visit. So those you can start to report on, as soon as you start to get visitors. Everything is cheese and everything is mousetrap. Did it attract visitors? Yes or no? That's the cheese. Did it engage and convert visitors? Yes or no? That's the mousetrap. Every piece of content succeeds or fails against those 2 general categories. And but they have different reporting, different ways in which to report on them.
Got it. Okay, so maybe let's wrap up because we're out of time, and I see that people started to leave. Probably they also have some things to do. Thank you so much for spending this hour with us, Andy, Casper. Thank you for your time, for your insights, for your knowledge. The recording will be sent tomorrow, so in case you just want to rewatch it or share with some friends, I don't know. Yeah, thanks everyone, and have a nice end of the day. See you next Thursday. Next Thursday we will talk about international SEO, one of the hottest topics in marketing, content marketing. So do join us next Thursday, same time, same link actually. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Kate. Good to see you, Casper.
It was a pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
Always a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye, Andy. Bye, Kate.
Bye-bye.